Have you ever played a game that by the time you set down the controller, you weren't quite the same person as when you first picked it up? While others considered gaming as a hobby or the sole reason I failed most of my high school classes, to me, gaming was more than that. It was a mentor that influenced and shaped the way I lead my life entirely in more ways than one. Each adventure taught me lessons that, to be honest, no classroom or person ever could. Lessons of courage, friendship, resilience, and even some insights about myself that I wouldn't have found if I didn't search for it. And whether or not you believe gaming is a waste of time, I find it intriguing that a couple of pixels on my screen influenced my many behaviors that I engage with on a daily basis. So, with that being said, today I actually wanted to share those moments in games that changed my life completely, and the unforgettable lessons that actually helped me do so. And what better place to start than, to be honest, the start. That's gonna be one of the first games I actually ever played on my iPad mini, being Minecraft.
We've got this really awesome experiment lined up and it's gonna be...
What the heck is that logic?
Yeah, I just keep blowing up.
Oh! No!
Was it ever in question?
It's funny to say it all started in a simple world of blocks, as to be honest, when I first loaded in, I had absolutely no clue of what I was supposed to do. However, through endless Dan TDM and Sunday videos, I eventually got the hang of it and started to realize the vast possibilities that this world had to offer. There were no rules, no instructions, just me and my endless imagination. The game actually made me realize that creativity has no boundaries. I can't begin to explain to you the hours on end that I spent on this game just figuring out what I can create. And even though at first it started off, well, dull and a clear reflection of my 9-year-old brain, to say the least, it eventually caused me to create some of the coolest stuff that to this day I believe is truly awesome. Minecraft showed me that the only limits to creativity are the ones you set on yourself. And as a kid, it really hit me that I was limiting myself just because I was afraid that my creations would be made fun of, as most people are, for being different. But when I played creative mode alone, I felt that supposed quote-unquote embarrassment just disappear, leaving my creatively free mind, which I was afraid would make me seem weird, to just go wild. And honestly, I think that every kid should have the chance to experience that, because this freedom sparked something incredibly deep within me, teaching me not only to approach life's greatest challenges creatively, but also not be ashamed of letting your unique flair flow through the work you do. This creativity single-handedly helps me every day in both my job and, surprisingly, here, where I blabber on about games I play while adding my own unique twist to it. But like I said, I'm not a kid anymore, and a big part of growing up is learning to face challenges that push you to new heights, all while staying true to who you are as a person. And in my opinion, there's no game that does that better than Spider-Man PS4. As I've gotten older, time only seems to have gone faster, moving from no responsibilities to a job that pays by the amount you do. It's safe to say that life has begun to throw its fair share of adversity at me, and while I do love my day job as well as creating a community that bonds to the things I say online, life still is hard. And when life gets hard, people tend to lose who they really are. This could be due to finances, relationships, work, or even one's self-image. The point being that the world throws problems at us that could alter the very thing that makes us unique. So in playing Spider-Man PS4, which entirely falls on the idea of a rapidly changing scene and problems at every corner which Peter must face, all while staying true to the non-killing friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, changed my perspective on it entirely. While others focus on the game's visuals and boss fights, I connected deeply with Peter and all the things that Peter had to go through while never changing who he was. It made me feel at ease that even a superhero with unearthly powers still struggled with the very same issues that us normal people do. It gave me hope, and contrasted deeply with all the problems I was facing, kind of correlating each with the different villains he was fighting, seeing as I'm not actually fighting any crazy stupid villains. But I digress. Peter never wavered. He never stopped making a funny joke, he never stopped being kind, or even never stopped pulling his punches. He just remained Peter, even after quite literally being thrown off a building and being forced to make the decisions to save hundreds but in turn give up his family. Now, I should be clear that this isn't the first game that I've seen sacrifice in. I mean, I can name a ton of games that describe sacrifice much better than how Spider-Man PS4 did. But the relation for me and Spider-Man wasn't necessarily only the story. Yep, that's my mom. And she was the best. Whether it was being a superhero at work or at home, she seemed to always have one thing clear in her mind. That being staying true to who you really are allows you to be happy throughout the storms of the night. And recently is the thing that reminds me the most of her from her passing a couple of months back. To me, she quite literally was Aunt May, constantly reminding her burdened nephew that the world needs Peter as much, if not more, than it needs Spider-Man. And even though Peter lost Aunt May, a little part of her lives on through the actions that he still does. The main being, no matter where you are or what you are going through, the greatest light in any tunnel isn't the light ahead, but rather the light that comes from within when being true to who you are. With my mom passing early in my life, it forced me to make some pretty big changes. To start accepting reality and responsibilities as they are, rather than a future me problem. And while your core personality must remain the same, there are some parts of you that must change due to the overwhelming nature of life. And what better person to teach you that than the God of War himself? Now, no, before any of you are wondering, I do not have a son, and that's not the change of responsibility that I must take up. However, there's something almost similar when essentially training and becoming a better version of yourself to take on life's greatest challenges that seems almost surreal. I mean, isn't that what fatherhood is about? To see a part of yourself in your son, but also mold him to be a better version than you were yourself. It seemed that I was essentially raising a new me, tasked with, obviously, responsibility. In playing God of War, with Kratos' realization of change from once being defined by his rage and revenge to now having to guide and protect his son Atreus, the responsibility forced Kratos down a path of learning to hone and control his powers instead of constantly unleashing it. This control ultimately allowed him to bond with his son and reveal to him the true path that a god must take to just be better. Strip down the mystical story and you now have the truest form of change. As a kid, I was extremely irresponsible. I had no care for what happens next, no care for my physical, and honestly, no care for my mental either. I lived life more in the moment rather than preparing myself for the future yet to come. However, with some of the poor decisions I made when it comes to my career and the unfortunate passing of my mother, I realized some changes definitely needed to be made. Obviously, in the form of discipline and honing my power. And what does every 20-year-old do in this stage? Well, they go to the gym. It took time and countless fails, but I eventually got here to where I am today. Far from perfect, but far from what I once was too. Going to the gym to me was almost like Kratos teaching Atreus how to control himself. It wasn't ever about power, but rather about discipline. Learning to have the constant control no matter what is presented ahead of you. But there's another part of the retired God of War's character that also actually affected me. You see, in the game, Atreus essentially gets sick due to his lack of control for his powers, but also the secrets of the sins of his father. And when Kratos eventually teaches him control and comes clean of his past, you see Atreus start to move in a much better direction than when he first started. This made me realize that I shouldn't be afraid nor ashamed of who I actually once was, but rather use him as a reflection to constantly drive myself to be better. The phrase that I now lead my life by is that the mirror of the past reflects the future that one sees in the present. Basically meaning that the way one views their past directly correlates to how they lead their future. And if you look at your past as a chance to be better, then you will in turn be inspired to do so. It's also pretty safe to say that hopefully in the distant future, I have a parenting guide in the form of these two games, as it's truly amazing to see the God of War rather look towards building his son than drowning himself in the sins of his past. As I've grown and faced many changes, it's become clear to me that no matter where you are, it's never too late to make said change, be it in personality, relationships, or in my case, career. Red Dead Redemption 2's sole intention really inspired that development of this idea. You can get a little montage. Here you go. To put it simply, Red Dead Redemption 2 is freaking incredible. And each person can pick up something incredibly different that could inspire them in many, many ways. It's unbelievable how it uses a medium to its fullest to tell a complex story of redemption, but more importantly, the idea of it never being late to make a change. That being all depending on the decisions you make along the way. And while I'm no Western gunslinger on a path to redemption, I am a person who believes at one point it was too late to change. Not because time was running out, but because of one, the fear of disappointing my family, and the other being genuine financial constraints. To give some context, due to my non-studious nature, my college plans were a bit slim, and what I had chosen for my career was one that I wasn't too keen on. Flash forward a couple of years and I realized that the space I was in was not for me, but in fear of disappointment and avoiding debt, I made the stupid decision to stay, as I truly believed I had no option. Now I know the contrast with the game and my life are a bit far-fetched, but believe it or not, it was seeing Arthur struggle and decide to change the way he moves forward that actually inspired me to do so too. Even if the contrast was high, the concept remained the same. That being, if you looked back and reflected on your life, would you actually be happy with the decisions you made? The truth was, at the time, I would say no. I'm pretty sure it's the exact same way when Arthur reflected on himself, he would say no too. Arthur to me was a symbol of a man so lost in his decisions that he stumbled upon the path of redemption, not only for himself but others too. And while I'm not saving anyone else with my trusty sword of nobility, I am in turn saving my future self from being stuck somewhere I really wouldn't want to be trapped in. And I'm not anymore. I'm currently actually working as an editor and a content creator for the little community that I could not be more grateful to have. I feel a sense of purpose when allowing my creativity to entertain and support other people in the journeys that they have yet to come. It is the most fulfilling piece of work that I've actually ever done. And it's all owed to the best gunslinger ever to existed on the pixels of a screen. It's unbelievable how powerful gaming storytelling can be. And there's a lot to say about Arthur Morgan's character that I actually have made a video about, so if you're interested, just click the link above to enjoy it for yourself. But for how it's helped me shape my life, it gave me a new perspective that sometimes worrying about the future only prevents you from making the right decisions in the present. Which I'm glad to say I do a lot less now in comparison to before. However, this new mindset does bring its own set of challenges, the main being the fear of the unknown, and more importantly, adaptability. And in a world where every notification and email constantly reminds you of where you should be, it felt nice to play this next title that stripped all the modern ways away to tell a deeper story of the unknown. That title being, of course, Cry Primal. Cry Primal was a journey into humanity's most basic instincts. Playing as Takar, stripped of modern technology and comforts, I learned greatness is not defined by resources and knowledge of what is known, but rather by resilience and, more importantly, adaptability. Takar's journey, filled with immense challenges and humble victories, taught me the power of resourcefulness. It reminded me that greatness lies not in the knowledge you possess, but in your determination to overcome obstacles with whatever you have. It's not about what you can see, but rather what you can't and still willing to take a step forward. When I embarked on this new journey, I was afraid and unwilling to push a large amount due to not seeing any real future or outcome. My current line of profession isn't like any regular one. I'm not guaranteed a set amount of income, nor am I guaranteed a future. It's unstable and cloudy at every single turn, which made me realize that my current frame of mind was actually not the right one to have. In Takar's journey, he is constantly reminded of the unknown and does doubt himself quite a bit. But as time goes on and the character himself starts to get more fleshed out, he starts seeing a new way he leads his quests. The part that he himself was missing was the part everyone around him knew about. The people around him prophesied about his story, but he at first barely believed it. Now, I don't think anyone around me is prophesying about my story, and if they are, I would probably tell them to stop, but I do believe that the people around me see something that I don't. And because of that, I owe a lot to those people. Those people who constantly rooted for me because they truly believed in the art I produced and think one day I'm going to make it when I didn't think I could. But that's exactly what people around you are for. Not just as friends, but also people to hold the visions and beliefs of who you could be when you can't see it yourself. Similarly, how Takar was constantly reminded about his destiny by the people that aided his journey and believed in what he could be. Because it's true that you could get lost due to uncertainty, and what you can only hope for are the people around you to keep you grounded and safe. It's safe to say that the reflection I took away from it is somewhat unsettling, being that no matter how hard I try, I will never be able to know the full extent of what is yet to come. But I do also believe that learning to just accept that and move forward one step at a time like Takar did is a course of action that many successful people I know to this day make. So yeah, that's all the incredible games that have impacted my life and changed the way I view it entirely. And when I sit and reflect, I always find it crazy that some of the biggest decisions in my life were inspired by characters and worlds on a screen that will always remain fictional. But it made me realize that life-changing advice, no matter how far-fetched, can literally come from anywhere. Be it a book, movie, or actually even people you slightly interact with along the way. And even though my life basically just started and the gravity of the unknown weighs on me, I couldn't be more confident with where I am and who I'm projected to be. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you. This video took a lot out of me to say, sharing some pretty personal things that I never thought I'd share, but if it helped you in any way, I'll know that it was all worth it. But beyond that, I realized that I'm extremely grateful for the current path that I've been given. The only question that now remains is what step should I take next?